Our top story tonight, a sentence handed down in a deadly encounter at a Wilmington Island bar that dates back nearly 7 years. Charles Teeple learned his punishment today after being convicted of manslaughter in the death of 66-year-old Bruce Helmley. WSAV's Jillian Coles joining us live outside the Chatham County Courthouse after an emotional day in court.
Tina, Judge Lisa Colbert sentenced Charles Teeple to 20 years, 10 to serve and 10 on probation. It was the end to an emotional day inside the courtroom where not only Bruce Helmley, the victim's family, and Teeple's loved ones took the stand, Teeple also addressed the court. The defense called 5 of Teeple's loved ones who he asked if they could help support Teeple once he is out of custody, and they all agreed. They spoke about how sorry the defendant is and how he's worked to better himself during his time in jail. Teeple's attorney Matthew Adkins asked Judge Colbert to consider a sentencing of years under watch by the court, but outside of jail. Well, the victim's daughter disagreed and asked that Teeple receive the maximum penalty.
While we do not wish harm upon Charles, we do believe that accountability is necessary and that he should serve the sentence warranted by the irreversible harm caused by his actions.
I am truly, from the bottom of my heart, sorry for your loss. I will spend the rest of my life trying to rectify my actions by helping others.
I think Mr. Teeple, I think in terms of what you saw here today, actions always have consequences, whether the court imposes a consequence or not, and it's like a ripple effect. Decisions you make impact, I'm sure, for every person in this room on both sides of this issue.
Now in April, before this sentencing, News 3 was inside the courtroom for a conflict in court hearing where Teeple's attorney claimed a Chatham County deputy may have influenced how quickly the jury made the guilty verdict during deliberations. Now, that hearing continued today, and final jurors actually testified in front of Judge Colbert, but no decision was made. Reporting live in Savannah, Jillian Coles, WSAV News 3, on your side.
Jillian, thank you. Developing now, 2 students are heard after a shooting at Warner Robins High School in Georgia. The Houston County Sheriff's Office says the suspect is now in custody and the school is secure. The 2 students were taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. There is still a significant law enforcement presence around the school. It's on South Davis Drive. Authorities are asking people to avoid that area and use alternate routes. The investigation is ongoing and no other details have been released. We're also following a developing story out of South Carolina where a high school student was shot and killed while waiting for his school bus. This happened in Gaffney, that's east of Spartanburg, around 7 this morning. The Cherokee County coroner says that 17-year-old Jamiltron Flair Jr. was crossing the street from his home to his bus when a man approached him. Investigators say the two got into a fight, and during that struggle, Flair was shot and killed. Surveillance video from the school bus shows the shooter getting into a waiting car and taking off. More than a dozen students were on the bus at the time, ranging between elementary and middle school ages.
Such a tragedy it was for them to have witnessed this, and that's something they'll take with them the rest of their lives. It's absolutely senseless. It's a heinous crime, and it's a shame when our students cannot be safe in going to a bus that takes them to school to learn.
Authorities are now working to identify and find the shooter. The school district has increased security at its campuses following the shooting. New at 6, the city of Springfield is pulling the plug on one of its school's own speed camera programs. City Council voting to end its agreement with Blue Line Solutions, the company operating automated speed cameras in the Springfield Elementary School Zone. The city says the contract is expected to end September 11th, but the cameras will remain in operation until then. Once the cameras are discontinued, police say officers will continue enforcing speed limits and other traffic laws in the school zone. The city is reminding drivers that school zone speed limits will remain in effect. Some new developments now. 2 separate investigations have found no evidence of a public nuisance or contamination at the former Caesarstone property. The findings come after the CEO of Westwind Elements raised concerns about potentially hazardous materials at the site in Bryan County. WSAV's Sarah Smith breaks down what investigators found.
While there were higher levels of arsenic found in one of the 4 wells at this property behind me, 2 separate investigations, one by the Environmental Protection Division and another by an independent consulting firm, found that it's most likely natural.
My conclusion is that there is no public nuisance on the site. The site is not contaminated.
2 public nuisance investigations debunked the claims made by Westwind founder and CEO Kaylee Long earlier this year. She claimed there were hazardous waste barrels on the property. County Attorney Aaron Kapler visited the site. He And an EPD representative only found plastic and metal drums that were sealed and properly stored. Both the EPD and an independent environmental consulting firm from Atlanta tested wells on the property, and there were higher levels of arsenic in one of them.
Now, in this coastal region of Georgia, arsenic is a naturally occurring substance in the soil. So they did that in September 2025. In November of 2025, the Development Authority had their environmental consultant evaluate the September 2025 Phase 2 that Westwind performed. That environmental consultant said the higher levels of arsenic were likely because the water sample wasn't good, had very high levels of turbidity, which is like soil and contaminants in the water itself.
He says this proved true for the latest investigations as well.
He ultimately said that this site is not going to be listed as a hazardous site in the EPD's records.
Still, Kapler says Caesarstone arranged for an environmental disposal company to remove the material off-site.
The EPD did, however, find that Caesarstone violated 2 administrative violations, and those were failure to make a hazardous waste determination and the failure to notify prior to closing. EPD then, of course, discussed it with Caesarstone, and they closed those violations.
Kapler says Westwind is no longer in negotiations with Caesarstone. Rather, another company is looking to buy this property. Stick with WSAV as we continue to closely follow what's next for this site. Reporting in Bryan County, I'm Sarah Smith, WSAV News 3, on your side.
Older adults living alone can face a serious problem when a medical emergency happens and no one is there to help. In Effingham County, the Sheriff's Office is using a free program designed to make sure that someone checks in. Confirm OK uses an automated phone call to conduct daily virtual welfare checks on seniors and others who may spend long periods of time alone. During the call, the person is asked to complete a simple task, such as pressing specific numbers on the phone. If the person doesn't answer or complete the check-in, the system notifies the Effingham County Sheriff's Office. Deputies can then contact a family member or send someone to the home for an in-person welfare check. Kathy Dillard with the Sheriff's Office says the program adds an extra layer of safety for people who may not have someone checking in on them regularly.
Unfortunately, it does happen a lot. My godson come home and found his father deceased. He's only 13 years old. You know, that's just, it's traumatic for anybody. And if we can prevent that, we're going to do what we can to prevent it.
The service is free. If you would like to sign up a family member, we have information on how to do that at WSAV.com. WSAV is your local election headquarters. The remaining Republican candidates for South Carolina's Senate seat are back on the campaign trail after yesterday's special primary election. It was a crowded Republican field, 10 candidates vying for it. Darlene Graham finished first statewide, while Ralph Norman came in second. Because no candidate reached the majority needed to win outright, Graham and Norton will face each other in a runoff on August 25th. In the Low Country, Graham had a particularly strong showing, winning Beaufort, Hampton, Colleton, and Jasper counties, but the second-place finisher varied. Mark Sanford was second in both Beaufort and Colleton, Ralph Norman second in Hampton, and Russell Fry was second in Jasper County.
I may not have been the first choice. I may not have been the second choice. I want to be the third and the fourth choice of everybody.
I have buried my precious brother. I have taken on the role of a United States Senator, and I have had this brutal campaign schedule, and I'm still standing.
The winner of the runoff will face Democrat Dr. Annie Andrews in November. She says that Congress needs more mothers in office who can speak to the struggles that families are facing.
There's a lot of challenges that families across South Carolina are facing, whether it's problems with our public school systems, crumbling infrastructure, difficulty finding affordable child care, putting food on the table, affordable prescription drugs.
And you can stay up to date with the latest political happenings in both South Carolina and Georgia at WSAV.com/electionhq. New at 6, Georgia Southern University is preparing to welcome what could be its largest student body ever. The university projects more than 33,900 students will enroll for the fall semester, which would set a new institutional record. That includes a projected record freshman class of more than 6,500 students. Those new Eagles will start moving into campus housing on Friday. Faculty, staff, student leaders, and community volunteers will all be on hand to help them and their families. The first day of fall classes is set for Wednesday, August 19th.
Now, Time Saver Traffic, sponsored by Arrowhead Clinic, the accident doctors, where it pays to get well.
Well, so far we haven't had any major crashes to report, just extra volume slowing things down, taking 26 minutes right now from downtown Savannah to get to Richmond Hill. That drive out to Pooler is starting to improve for us, down to 12 minutes from downtown. As far as our forecast for tomorrow, we're weather aware because dangerous heat is in the forecast. Heat index values will be over 110 degrees, especially along the coast, and more of this heat is in the 7-day forecast. We'll talk about that in the tropics coming up.